The morning light filters through the blinds, casting stripes of warmth across the bedroom. I roll over, squinting at the clock on the nightstand. 7:30 a.m. I lie there for a moment, listening to the soft hum of traffic outside and the distant call of a bird. Next to me, Susan is already awake, scrolling through her phone. Her face is a mask of calm, but I know better. Susan and I have been married for almost 10 years. We've built a life together, sharing secrets, dreams, and, occasionally, silence. Lately, though, her silence has been louder than her words. She's been more secretive, slipping out for late-night errands and taking phone calls in hushed tones. It could be nothing, probably just work stress, but the nagging feeling in my gut says otherwise. As she gets out of bed, I watch her move with the grace and precision of a dancer. She's always had that aura about her, elegant, untouchable. But lately, that elegance feels like a veil hiding something darker. I push the thought aside, telling myself I'm being ridiculous. But when I reach over to grab my book from her nightstand, I freeze. There, nestled between a romance novel and a stack of magazines, is a knife. A sharp, gleaming blade that seems out of place in our otherwise tranquil bedroom. I carefully lift it, examining its weight in my hand. It's a hunting knife, the kind you'd use for survival, not for slicing vegetables. My heart thuds loudly in my chest, and I place it back before Susan returns from the bathroom. "Hey, I'm going to head out early today," she calls, pulling on her coat. "Got a meeting with a new client." "Okay," I reply, trying to keep my voice steady. "Anything I can help with?" She shakes her head, flashing me a quick smile. "No, I've got it under control." "You know me." I nod, watching as she gathers her things and heads for the door. As soon as she's gone, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I grab my phone and scroll through the news, hoping for a distraction, but the headlines only feed my anxiety. Local man murdered in his home, lover suspected. The article details a gruesome scene, a man found dead, stabbed multiple times in his own bed. His alleged lover is the prime suspect. My mind races, connecting dots that shouldn't be connected, drawing lines between shadows and whispers. I'm overreacting, I tell myself again. But the weight of the knife still lingers in my thoughts. By lunchtime, the tension has burrowed deep into my bones. I decide I need a break, a temporary escape from the unease that settled over my life. The cottage up north, a relic from my childhood, is the perfect retreat. It's a place where I can think, where I can figure out if I'm just paranoid or if something more sinister is afoot. I pack a bag hastily, grabbing essentials and a few books. As I throw clothes into a suitcase, my phone buzzes with a text from Susan. "Working late. Don't wait up." The words are casual, but I read them as a confirmation of my fears. Why did she need to work late so often? I dismiss the thought, finishing my packing and heading out the door. The drive to the cottage is a blur of asphalt and towering trees. I try to focus on the road, on the music playing softly from the car speakers, but my mind keeps drifting back to the knife and Susan's increasingly erratic behavior. When I finally reach the cottage, it's late afternoon. The place is just as I remember, wooden walls steeped in nostalgia, the scent of pine hanging in the air. I unload my bags and step inside, feeling the familiar creak of the floorboards beneath my feet. I spend the evening trying to unwind, sitting by the lake with a drink in hand, but my thoughts are relentless. The tranquility of the setting only amplifies the chaos in my mind. Just as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, my phone rings. It's an old acquaintance, Greg, someone I haven't spoken to in months. "Hey, Mike," Greg's voice crackles over the line, sounding hesitant. "Have you heard the news?" My heart skips a beat. "What news?" "It's about Susan," he says, his tone somber. "She's been accused of something terrible." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean?" "There's been another murder," Greg continues, his voice dropping to a whisper. "A guy she was seeing. They think she did it. The police are looking for her." My mind reels, struggling to process the information. There must be some mistake, I say, though my voice lacks conviction. I thought you should know, Greg says. Take care of yourself, man. It's all over the news. The call ends, leaving me in stunned silence. I stare at the phone, my thoughts a tangled web of disbelief and dread. Could Susan really be involved in something so horrific? The woman I've loved for years, the woman I've shared my life with, could she be a killer? I replay our conversations in my mind, searching for signs, for clues I might have missed. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the knife in the nightstand. Pieces of a puzzle I never wanted to assemble. With shaking hands, I turn on the TV, flipping to a news channel. The anchor's voice fills the room, detailing the gruesome discovery of yet another body, the eerie similarities to previous cases, and the ongoing manhunt for the suspect, my wife. The world spins around me, and I sink into the couch, my mind a cacophony of fear and disbelief. I thought I knew Susan, thought I understood the depths of her secrets, but this is a revelation too dark to comprehend. As the evening deepens into night, I sit alone in the cottage, the weight of the news pressing down on me like a physical force. Susan, my wife, accused of murder. The woman who once held my heart now stands at the center of a nightmare I can't wake from. I know I should call the police, tell them everything I know, but fear roots me in place. Fear of what they might uncover, fear of the truth I might have to face. Instead, I sit in silence, the flickering light of the TV casting shadows across the room, shadows that seem to whisper the secrets of a life I never truly knew. In the distance, the lake laps gently against the shore, its rhythmic sound a haunting reminder of the past. A past now shrouded in suspicion and fear. The next morning dawns heavy with uncertainty. I wake up to the sound of raindrops tapping on the window, the sky overcast and brooding. My mind is still grappling with the events of the previous day, and I feel the weight of disbelief hanging over me like a cloud. After tossing and turning all night, I finally push myself out of bed, determined to find answers. I pace around the living room of the cottage, my thoughts racing. I need to understand what is happening. Did I really know the woman I married? And how much danger am I in? A sudden knock on the door startles me. I pause, staring at the door with a mixture of dread and curiosity. Who could possibly be out here in the middle of nowhere? Mike, open up. It's me, Greg. Hearing Greg's voice brings a sense of relief, albeit a fleeting one. I hurry over and open the door, letting him in from the rain. He stands there, drenched and looking every bit as concerned as I feel. Greg, what the hell is going on? I ask, my voice edged with desperation. He shakes his head, brushing water from his hair. I drove up as soon as I could. This whole thing is insane, man. You okay? I nod, though I'm not sure if it's true. Yeah, I guess. But I don't understand any of this. How could Susan be involved in something like this? Greg sighs, taking a seat on the worn-out couch. I don't know, Mike. The news is saying she's been linked to multiple murders now. Some of the victims were apparently her lovers. The word hits me like a slap to the face, confirming the suspicions that have been eating away at me. Susan's secretive behavior suddenly takes on a more sinister light. It's like I'm seeing everything with a new, disturbing clarity. What do you know about the murders? I ask, trying to gather any piece of information that might make sense of the chaos. Greg hesitates, glancing toward the window. Well, the police are saying each victim was killed in a similar manner. Stabbed multiple times in their beds. And there's some talk about a pattern. These guys were all known to be involved with married women. That's why they're looking at Susan. The rain outside seems to intensify, matching the storm of emotions brewing inside me. I struggle to reconcile the image of the woman I love with the monster described on TV. What about the police? I ask, my voice trembling with uncertainty. Are they coming after me too? Greg shrugs, looking uncomfortable. I don't know, but you're probably under scrutiny. Especially since you and Susan are married. They might think you're involved or covering for her. The idea sends a shiver down my spine. Innocent as I am, the thought of being entangled in such a mess is terrifying. We need to figure out what to do next, I say, my mind racing with possibilities. I can't just sit here and wait for them to come knocking on my door. Greg nods, a determined look crossing his face. Agreed. We need to get to the bottom of this. Maybe we should talk to some people back in town. See if anyone knows anything about Susan's connections or movements. His suggestion makes sense, and despite the chaos, a plan starts to form in my mind. But as we discuss our next steps, another knock echoes through the cottage. My heart jumps into my throat, and I exchange a worried glance with Greg before cautiously approaching the door. This time, it's a young woman, soaked from the rain, her expression a mix of fear and urgency. Her eyes dart around nervously before she speaks. Mike, I need to talk to you. It's about Susan. I study her face, trying to place her. Do I know you? She nods, wiping rain from her brow. I'm Jenna. I work with Susan. We've met a couple of times at office parties. I vaguely remember her from a holiday party last year. What are you doing here, Jenna? Jenna steps inside, glancing warily at Greg before speaking. I overheard some things at work. Things about Susan. I think you need to know. I close the door behind her, feeling a sense of dread settle in my stomach. What did you hear? Jenna takes a deep breath, as if gathering courage. Susan's been acting strange at the office too. She's been having meetings with this guy, Martin. He's a known sleazebag, and he's been bragging about their affair. My heart sinks further. Martin? Is he involved in all this? Jenna shakes her head. I'm not sure. But Susan's been different lately. Distracted. Like she's planning something. I overheard her talking on the phone about cleaning up loose ends. Her words send a chill down my spine. Cleaning up loose ends. It sounds ominous, like something out of a crime drama, not my life. Greg leans forward, eyes narrowed. Did you hear anything else? Anything about these murders? Jenna hesitates, biting her lip. Not directly. But I heard Susan mention a cabin. She said it was the perfect place to get away if things went south. I think she's planning to run. I exchange a glance with Greg, the urgency of the situation settling in. If Susan is planning to flee, it means she knows the police are closing in. It means there's more to this than we understand. We need to find her, I say, the determination in my voice surprising even me. Before she disappears for good. Or worse. Greg nods, his expression grim. Yeah. But we need to be smart about it. If we're not careful, we could end up in trouble ourselves. Jenna looks between us, her fear evident. I just wanted to help. I don't know what Susan's gotten into, but I don't think she's who we thought she was. The three of us sit in silence, the reality of our situation pressing down like a weight. The rain outside continues to fall, an unrelenting backdrop to the storm brewing in our lives. I think back to all the moments with Susan, all the laughter and love we shared. It feels like a distant memory now, overshadowed by the growing web of deception and fear. We should start by talking to Martin, Greg suggests, breaking the silence. He might know more than he's letting on. Jenna nods, though her eyes betray her uncertainty. He's not the most trustworthy guy, but he's definitely involved somehow. If anyone knows what Susan's up to, it's him. With a plan forming, we gather our things, steeling ourselves for the confrontation ahead. As we step out into the rain, I can't help but feel that this is just the beginning. The beginning of unraveling a truth that might be more terrifying than the accusations themselves. And as I lock the door behind me, I know there's no turning back. Not now. Not ever. The path ahead is uncertain, but I have no choice but to follow it, wherever it may lead. The rain continues to pour as we drive back to the city, each drop a reminder of the storm we're diving headfirst into. A storm that threatens to tear apart everything I thought I knew. The city looms ahead, skyscrapers jutting into the sky like the jagged teeth of a giant. The rain has softened to a drizzle, mist clinging to the windows as Greg maneuvers the car through the slick streets. Tension hangs between us, a silent reminder of the mission we've embarked on, unraveling the mystery surrounding my wife, Susan, and her web of secrets. Jenna sits in the back seat, staring out the window, lost in thought. Her presence adds an unexpected layer to this surreal situation. Just yesterday, my life was ordinary. Now, I'm hunting down answers about a woman I thought I knew, helped by two people I barely know. I pull my phone from my pocket, debating whether to call the police. But every time I start dialing, doubt creeps in. What if this is all a misunderstanding? What if we're wrong? The weight of uncertainty is suffocating. "Mike, you all right?" Greg asks, glancing over at me with concern. I nod, slipping the phone back into my pocket. "Yeah, just trying to process everything. It all feels like a nightmare." Greg gives a grim nod. "I know, man. But we'll get to the bottom of this. Susan might be involved in something, but it doesn't mean you are." We pull up to a rundown apartment complex, the kind of place where shadows lurk in every corner. This is where Martin lives, a man who might hold the key to understanding Susan's double life. Jenna points to a window on the 3rd floor. That's his place. He usually gets home around this time. I stare up at the window, feeling the gravity of what we're about to do. Confronting someone who could be involved in multiple murders isn't exactly how I envisioned my day. "Let's be careful," I say, my voice steady despite the anxiety swirling inside me. We climb the stairs, the air thick with the smell of damp and neglect. Each step echoes like a drumbeat, heightening the anticipation. Finally, we reach Martin's door. I hesitate for a moment, then knock firmly. The door swings open, revealing a disheveled man with greasy hair and a suspicious glare. "Martin." "Who the hell are you?" he growls, eyes narrowing. I step forward, trying to project confidence. "My name's Mike. This is Greg and Jenna. We need to talk about Susan." The mention of her name causes a flicker of recognition to cross his face. He glances between us, then steps aside, motioning for us to enter. The apartment is cluttered, reeking of stale cigarettes and cheap beer. Martin gestures to a stained couch, and we sit down, facing him as he leans against the wall, arms crossed. "What do you want to know?" he asks, his voice laced with suspicion. Greg speaks up, his tone firm. "We know you've been seeing Susan. We need to know what's going on between you two." Martin laughs, a harsh sound that makes my skin crawl. "Is that what this is about? You're the husband, right? Must suck to find out your wife's been screwing around." The anger I've been suppressing flares up, but I force myself to stay calm. "This isn't about that. We know there's more to it. People are dead, Martin. Susan's in serious trouble, and if you know anything, you need to tell us." His expression shifts, a shadow of doubt crossing his features. He hesitates, then finally speaks. All right. Susan and we were seeing each other. But I swear I didn't know about the murders. Not until it hit the news." "Then why keep seeing her?" Jenna asks, her voice steady and probing. Martin shrugs, looking down at his feet. "She said she was leaving you. Said she wanted a fresh start. I thought it was just some fling, you know? Until she started talking about how things needed to be cleaned up. I figured she meant getting rid of evidence or something, but I didn't want any part of it." His words send a chill down my spine. Evidence. Cleaning up. It's starting to make a horrifying kind of sense. Did she mention where she might go? A cabin, maybe? I press, hoping for any lead that could help us. Martin shakes his head. Not to me. She was always secretive, always kept things close to the chest. But she did mention someone else. A guy named Rick. He's the one who introduced us. Said he knew people who could take care of things. I exchange a glance with Greg, the pieces falling into place. Rick, or another name in this tangled web. If he's involved, he might know more about Susan's plans. Where can we find Rick? Greg asks, urgency in his voice. Martin hesitates, then sighs. Last I heard, he hangs out at this bar downtown, the Rusty Nail. Might be worth checking out, but be careful. Rick's not someone you want to mess with. I nod, feeling a mix of fear and determination. We have a lead, a direction to follow. As much as I want to believe in Susan's innocence, the evidence is mounting, pointing to a darker truth. Thanks, Martin, I say, standing up. This might help clear things up. He nods, eyes filled with a mix of regret and relief. I hope you find what you're looking for. And, sorry about Susan. With that, we leave the apartment, the air outside feeling cooler against my skin. We head back to the car, the drizzle having turned into a light mist that clings to everything. Jenna breaks the silence as we drive away. What do you think? Is this Rick guy involved in the murders? Greg glances at me, then nods. It's possible. If he's been working with Susan, he might have more information. We need to find him and get some answers. I lean back in my seat, the weight of the situation pressing down like an invisible hand. My mind races with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. I never imagined my life would turn into a thriller, where trust is as fragile as glass and betrayal lurks around every corner. As we approach the bar, the Rusty Nail, its neon sign flickering like a beacon in the dark, I steel myself for what lies ahead. This could be the break we need, the chance to unravel the mystery and find out who Susan really is. We park nearby and make our way inside, the dim lighting and low hum of conversation creating an atmosphere of secrets and shadows. The air is thick with the scent of smoke and whiskey, the kind of place where stories are told in whispers. I spot a man at the far end of the bar, sitting alone, nursing a drink. He fits the description Martin gave us, tall, rugged, with a scar running down his cheek. Rick. Taking a deep breath, I approach him, Greg and Jenna close behind. My heart pounds with every step, but I push forward, determined to uncover the truth. Rick? I ask, my voice cutting through the din of the bar. He looks up, eyes narrowing as he assesses us. Who's asking? I'm Mike. We need to talk about Susan. The mention of her name causes a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He sets his drink down, eyeing us with a mixture of curiosity and caution. All right, he says, leaning back in his seat. Let's talk. But make it quick. I don't have all night. Greg steps forward, his voice steady and commanding. We know you're involved with Susan. We need to know what you two are planning and how it ties to the murders. Rick smirks, a glint of amusement in his eyes. Involved? I just helped her out with some connections. She needed help, and I gave her some names. Whatever she's doing now is on her. What kind of help? Jenna asks, her tone sharp and unyielding. Rick shrugs, unfazed by her intensity. You know, cleaning up loose ends. She was paranoid about something, said she couldn't trust anyone. She wanted out, and I gave her options. His words confirm my worst fears. Susan wasn't just running from something, she was orchestrating an escape, leaving a trail of destruction in her wake. Where is she now? I demand, desperation seeping into my voice. Rick takes a sip of his drink, savoring the moment. No idea. Last I heard, she was headed to the cabin up north. But who knows? She could be halfway across the country by now. His nonchalance fuels my frustration. You don't seem too concerned about what happens to her. Rick chuckles, a dark sound that grates on my nerves. Concerned? Now. She's a big girl. She can handle herself. Besides, she's not the first client to get in over their head. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut. Susan isn't the only one in this tangled web. There are others, people who might have met the same fate, caught in the crossfire of her secrets. Greg leans closer, his voice low and menacing. If you know anything else, now's the time to share. Otherwise, you might find yourself caught up in this mess. Rick considers this, a calculating look in his eyes. Finally, he leans forward, lowering his voice. All right. There is one thing. Susan mentioned something about a meeting. Said it was her last chance to set things right. It's happening soon, but I don't know where. A meeting. The final piece of the puzzle, the last step in whatever plan Susan has devised. It's our chance to stop her, to prevent any more bloodshed. I nod, determined to see this through. Thanks, Rick. This might be what we need. He waves a dismissive hand, returning to his drink. Whatever. Just keep me out of it. We leave the bar, the cool night air a welcome relief from the oppressive atmosphere inside. As we walk to the car, my mind churns with the possibilities ahead. We need to find out where that meeting is happening, Greg says, determination etched on his face. It might be our only shot at stopping Susan. Jenna nods, her expression resolute. Agreed. We have to move fast. If she's really planning something big, we can't afford to waste any time. As we drive away from the Rusty Nail, the city lights blurring into a haze, I feel a sense of urgency pulsing through my veins. Susan's secrets have dragged us into a dangerous game, but I'm determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The path ahead is fraught with uncertainty, but it's the only way forward. In the face of betrayal and deception, I have no choice but to confront the shadows and reveal the truth lurking in the darkness. As the car speeds through the night, I know that this is just the beginning. The beginning of a journey that will test my resolve, my loyalty, and my understanding of the woman I thought I knew. And as the rain continues to fall, I brace myself for the storm that lies ahead, ready to face whatever challenges await in the pursuit of justice and truth. We drive through the city under the cover of night, each streetlight casting fleeting shadows on the car's interior. My mind is a whirlwind of thoughts, each one more troubling than the last. Susan's betrayal has changed everything I thought I knew about my life, and now the truth feels like a weapon wielded against me. The only thing keeping me grounded is the burning desire to confront her once and for all. Greg turns down a narrow street, the tires hissing on the wet pavement. We should check the old warehouse district, he suggests. If she's meeting someone, it'll be someplace out of the way. Jenna nods from the back seat, her eyes fixed on the passing buildings. That makes sense. Susan would want a place where she wouldn't be easily seen or overheard. I glance at them both, grateful for their support but feeling the weight of what's to come. Let's just hope we're not too late, I say, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. As we approach the warehouse district, the atmosphere changes. The streets are deserted, lined with imposing structures that loom like silent sentinels. The rain has stopped, leaving the air heavy and damp, as if the world itself is holding its breath. There, Greg says, pointing to a dimly lit building at the end of the street. That looks promising. We park the car a short distance away, careful not to draw attention. My heart pounds in my chest as we make our way toward the warehouse, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the stillness. The door is slightly ajar, a faint sliver of light spilling out into the night. I exchange a glance with Greg and Jenna, then push it open, stepping inside. The interior is a cavernous space filled with shadows. The air smells of dust and oil, a testament to the building's long-abandoned purpose. In the distance, I hear voices, low and tense, coming from somewhere beyond the stacks of crates and machinery. We move quietly, following the sound until we reach a cleared area where Susan stands, deep in conversation with a man I've never seen before. Her back is to us, but I can sense her agitation, the way she gestures sharply with her hands. Just want it to be over, Rick, she says, her voice carrying a mix of desperation and determination. I've done everything you asked. Now give me what I need. The man, Rick, nods, his face hidden in shadow. You'll get it, Susan. But this is your last chance. You screw this up, and there's no going back. My heart hammers in my chest as I step into the light, my voice cutting through the tension. Susan. She spins around, her eyes widening in shock and fear. Mike? What are you doing here? I feel a surge of anger, the betrayal searing like a brand. I could ask you the same thing. How could you do this, Susan? How could you lie to me about everything? Her expression shifts, a mask of defiance slipping into place. You don't understand, Mike. I had to do this. It was the only way. The only way? I repeat incredulously. The only way to what? To destroy our life? To get involved in murder? Susan's eyes flash with something I can't quite decipher: fear, regret, maybe even defiance. You don't know what you're talking about. Greg steps forward, his presence a reassuring weight beside me. We know more than you think, Susan. We know about the murders, about Rick, about everything. You can't hide anymore. Rick shifts, his hand reaching for something at his side. This is getting out of hand, he mutters, clearly uneasy. Jenna steps closer, her voice firm. Let's all calm down. We can figure this out without anyone getting hurt. But Susan shakes her head, a desperate edge to her voice. There's nothing to figure out. It's too late. Her words send a chill down my spine. There's something final about the way she says it, like a decision has been made that can't be undone. Before I can respond, Susan turns to Rick, her expression steely. I'm done with this. Give me the documents and let me go. That was the deal. Rick hesitates, then reaches into his jacket, pulling out a manila envelope. He hands it to her, his eyes darting between us warily. Susan clutches the envelope, her knuckles white with tension. This is my ticket out, she says, almost to herself. It's a moment of truth, a pivotal point where everything hangs in balance. My mind races with questions, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place with a sickening clarity. Susan, I say, my voice breaking slightly. Was it all a lie? Our life, our marriage, was any of it real? She meets my gaze, her eyes softening for a fraction of a second before hardening again. It was real, Mike. But sometimes reality isn't enough. I needed more. Her words cut deep, a wound that feels like it will never heal. In that moment, I see her for what she is, a stranger wearing the face of the woman I loved. As the tension mounts, Rick makes a sudden move, pulling a gun from his waistband. All right, enough of this. You all need to leave. Now. The gun is a chilling reminder of the stakes, a reality that sharpens the air around us. I step back, my hands raised in a placating gesture. We don't want any trouble, Rick. We're leaving. Greg and Jenna follow my lead, and we slowly back away, giving Susan one last look. She stands there, clutching the envelope like it's her lifeline, the weight of her choices visible in the slump of her shoulders. Goodbye, Mike, she says, her voice a whisper of what it once was. We exit the warehouse, the night air a cold slap against my skin. My heart feels heavy with the finality of what's just happened, the loss of a life I thought I knew, replaced by a truth that's impossible to ignore. Back in the car, silence hangs between us, thick with unspoken words and shared disbelief. Jenna breaks it first, her voice a quiet anchor in the chaos. I'm sorry, Mike, she says, genuine empathy in her eyes. I didn't know it would end like this. I nod, struggling to find my voice. Neither did I. But at least now we know. We know the truth. Greg starts the car, and we drive away from the warehouse, leaving behind the echoes of deception and shattered trust. The city's lights blur into a kaleidoscope of color as we speed through the streets, each passing moment pulling me further from the wreckage of my past. As we reach my apartment building, Greg parks the car, turning to face me. What are you going to do now? I take a deep breath, the weight of the decision settling on my shoulders. I'm going to the police. I need to tell them everything. Jenna nods, her expression resolute. It's the right thing to do. You'll be okay, Mike. We are here for you. Their support is a balm to my wounded spirit, a reminder that even in the face of betrayal, there's still kindness and loyalty in the world. I step out of the car, the rain starting up again, a gentle patter against the pavement. As I make my way to the entrance, I feel the last threads of the past slipping away, replaced by a future that's uncertain, but mine to shape. Inside, the apartment feels empty, the echoes of shared memories lingering like ghosts. I sit down, pulling out my phone and dialing the number for the local precinct. "Hello, I need to report a crime," I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "It's about the murders linked to my wife, Susan." The words are a release, a shedding of the weight that's been pressing down on me since this nightmare began. As I give my statement, I know it's a step toward closure, toward rebuilding a life that's been shattered but not destroyed. When the call ends, I sit in the quiet of the apartment, the storm outside a mirror to the chaos within. But for the first time, I feel a sense of peace, a knowledge that I'm finally moving forward, free from the shadows of deceit and betrayal. I know that Susan will face justice, that the truth will come to light. And while the pain of her actions will linger, I refuse to let it define me. I've been burned by betrayal, but I've also found strength in the people who stood by me, who helped me navigate the darkness. As the rain continues to fall, I close my eyes, letting the sound wash over me like a cleansing tide. The past is behind me, and the future stretches ahead, an open road waiting to be explored. And though I may have lost the woman I thought I knew, I've gained something far more valuable: clarity, resilience, and the knowledge that I can survive anything life throws my way. With a newfound resolve, I rise, ready to embrace the challenges ahead, to rebuild a life that's truly my own. The night is dark, but the dawn will come, bringing with it a new beginning and the promise of hope.